was the summer of 2014, and for my son's bar mitzvah present, just like many Jewish parents, we wanted him to bond with the Holy Land. Oh, it worked perhaps too well. My husband had stayed back at the hotel, and our friends, my son and I, had just stopped in a pharmacy.
Run to the bomb shelter, sweetie, please hurry. I didn't hear the sirens at first, but the Israelis did. They're used to hearing these things. We ran to the back of the storeroom. It was a 12-foot by 24-foot windowless bomb shelter. My heart's pounding. Boom, boom. I hear and feel the percussion of the exploding bombs. I'm trying not to get sick. I look at my 13-year-old son and I think I'll never forgive myself if something happens to him.
That's an excerpt from a speech I gave to the Orange County Jewish Bar Association. It was the first, but not the last time we had to run to a bomb shelter. Our adventure and my transformation is also the subject of my book, Blasted from Complacency, A Journey from Terror to Transformation in Israel. There is no chapter in a parenting book on what to do when a war starts and you're on a family vacation. Think touring extraordinary and sacred sites mixed with cowering in bomb shelters. I'm still trying to get over the Jewish guilt of taking my son to war for his bar mitzvah present. The impact of being human targets helped me understand the plight of Israelis living like this, and it also made me want to work on peace. How Israel is often described on the news is not what I'd seen with my own eyes. And I felt Palestinian parents also preferred their children playing safely in their backyards. The missiles exploded just near enough to blow apart my world as I knew it, forever changing me. And you'd never recognize my life today with what it was like then. I believe I found my life's purpose. Hello, I'm Penny S.Tee, and I'm the host of Peace with Penny. Today we will be speaking with Reverend Canon Nicholas T. Porter, Executive Director of Jerusalem Peacebuilders. Father Nicholas is the founder and Executive Director of Jerusalem Peacebuilders. A longtime resident of Europe and Middle East, he is an educator and Episcopal priest. His academic credentials include BA in Soviet and Middle Eastern Studies from Yale, MA in Middle Eastern Studies from the American University in Cairo, MA in War Studies from the University of London, and an MA in Divinity or Theology from Yale University. Jerusalem Peacebuilders' vision is a Jerusalem and a world where Jews, Christians, Muslims, and Druze live together as sisters and brothers in dignity, equality, and peace. Jerusalem Peacebuilders, or JPB, is an interfaith nonprofit organization with a mission to create a better future for humanity across religions, cultures, and nationalities. Integral to that mission is the belief that the future of Jerusalem is the future of the world. To that end, JPB promotes transformational person-to-person encounters among the peoples of Jerusalem, Israel, Palestine, and the United States. They have many enlightening programs bringing together Israeli, Palestinian, and American teens and young adults together in the United States, Israel, and in the Palestinian territories in summer camps, leadership programs, 4-year programs of conflict resolution in high schools in Israel, and adult programs of travel, educator training, and a new program for empowering women. They are creating peace builders by providing them necessary skills to change the paradigm in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict and create a better world. Peace with Penny is excited to show our audience another organization of peacemakers working hard to provide skills to the next generation to improve their lives and others, and hopefully change their fate from destruction to one of peace. Welcome, Father Nicholas.
Well, thank you, Penny, and thank you for that gracious introduction. I'm delighted to be with you here today and be able to share about the work of Jerusalem Peacebuilders, how it really involves education, life change, friendship, and our spirits as well. I'm just delighted to be here. Thank you for having me.
I'm thrilled to have you here. I thought we'd start with, you have a terrific clip, so let's start with that.
Sure, that'll be good.
I'm meeting the rest of the campers from the Jerusalem Peacebuilders.
I'm actually looking forward to see how these workshops might change how we think about many issues.
If they hear things on the news, if they hear things from others, they know how to think critically, and they know that other people might not necessarily be wrong, and they might not necessarily be 100% correct. So essentially the skills that they learn in the camp, how to communicate with other people, hopefully that translates into them using it later on in life.
We all have this morality, we all have these common things, and we basically know different truths, but that's the thing, we can get to know each other's truths and understand what other people think.
I just prayed with Marcel and Ismail at the mosque. I've been to other mosques before, but I've never actually joined in prayer. So that was very interesting. I very much enjoyed it.
I've been to a few mosques, but I've never felt as welcome as I did today.
I learned a lot of things about Judaism yesterday and Saturday. Shabbat prayer.
So Judaism is a faith, Judaism is a people, and Judaism, one more level, is a heritage, because we share the same history.
ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר גידלנו במצוותיו וציוונו להדליק נר שבת.
Before trying to reach peace, and somehow we must have the trust-building methods.
You build trust from just getting to know people. If I get to know people, I can trust them. I can be vulnerable with them.
We are from Leaps of Faith. We are from a priest, rabbi, and an imam.
We are from bonding, from peace through friendships.
We are from a world full of conflict, but we are a world trying to stop it.
We are made of love, warm fuzzies, and family time. We are from breaking barriers, from taking down every single stereotype we have.
We are from memories that will last forever.
We are from 4 families coming into one.
And we all have a lot of identities that we can work together and see common ground on. But when we have an identity that is sort of our victim identity, the identity that we feel oppressed by, that one seems to take over a lot more thought in our brain. It takes up a lot of space. And when that takes up a lot of space, we forget about the other identities that we have, the other ways in which we can connect to other people.
Because of this program and others before it, I learned to see from other perspectives.
Not only did you change each other and come together as a family, but my pocket, my leg has been buzzing all day from people that you have impacted. People from Palmer, people from the synagogue, people from the mosque. I want you to feel powerful. I want you to feel like you can make a difference, because you've already made a difference and you haven't even gone home yet.
We are JPB,
Jerusalem Peacebuilders.
And as we say in Texas, that's all, folks.
I love that. Now we'll start. I have to say, I do listen to that just because I like it. It's very inspiring.
Isn't it? Isn't it? It's great for me to be able to see a lot of those young people again whom I've known over the years, and get to see their faces. So many of them have gone on to be medical students and lawyers and officers in the army and all kinds of things. So it's wonderful to see their faces when they were young.
That's really exciting. So how would you describe Jerusalem Peacebuilders?
That's a big question, Penny, but I'll see if I can give you a nice nugget that is easy to remember. Jerusalem Peacebuilders is a nonprofit interfaith organization that focuses on peace and leadership education in the Holy Lands. And that's plural on purpose, lands with an S. So that it captures both the plurality of the lands, but also the visions in them. And to do that, I think, as you know very well, you need some outside actors as well. So we're proud to always include an American component in that, American Jews, American Christians, American Muslims, as they learn from literally their sisters and brothers in the Middle East about peace building, about leadership, about transforming our world. And you know, we believe that Jerusalem is the center of the world. We believe it's a bellwether, a weather vane for human relationships as well as the future. And that means that's where we have to start. That's where we have our call to do our work, just as you felt your call there in 2014.
Yeah.
And you know, it just becomes inescapable for some people. And you know,
boy, isn't that the truth?
It is. And you know, we believe that the path to peace does not go through politicians. I think we've all been disappointed there time and again from any number of politicians, from any number of parties and religions and viewpoints and ethnicities. The path to peace runs through people and changed personhood, changed self-perception, changed perception of others, a changed personal narrative, a changed group narrative. And so that's really where we're working. That's why we focus on peace and educational programs that focus on individuals and individuals aggregating into cohorts and cohorts aggregating into something else. You know, we're big fans of Count Leo Tolstoy's very famous quote, which is, everybody wants to change the world, but nobody wants to change themselves. You know, he was on to something, which is to change the world, you must change yourself. That's your starting point, because you're part of the world. And that's, we're proud to participate from that level on up.
I totally agree, and also realize if you don't change yourself, you can't bring that out into the world. It starts, it's not a selfish thing. It is just a fact of life. You have to change yourself first. You work together with your wife, and where did this family dream come from, and how did Jerusalem Peacebuilder evolve into the organization it is today?
Yes, indeed, I do work with my wife, Dorothy. We're college sweethearts. And the work began soon after we got married. We lived in Jerusalem for about 3 years, and we were working with the Episcopal Church there, but primarily with supporting a network of hospitals and schools and orphanages and training centers. And we saw in that really the building blocks of peace. And when we ended up moving to Paris after that time, we left with the dream of what Jerusalem Peacebuilders was. And
what year was that?
That was in 1997 when we sort of had that moment. And we dined out on that dream for a long time, Penny, before we really had the courage to take the next step. You know, we stayed in touch with Jerusalem. We led lots of groups and pilgrimages and visits there. We raised money for all those hospitals and schools and things that I talked about earlier. But we were scared. We were scared. We were scared about the changes we'd have to make, and would we succeed? And then we finally, took that leap. Yes, it was a leap of faith. It was. And very quickly, our two best friends from college joined us.
How cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And then suddenly it wasn't scary because we were just family and friends.
Nice. Nice.
That's been our model the whole time, is that the way we shape the organization, shape the staff, shape the programming and our relationships, whether it's with teenagers or teachers or people on a pilgrimage, and I hope with the women's empowerment group, that we're family. And that wonderful video clip you showed, one of the young people talks about going from 4 families to 1 family, right?
Yeah.
Being able to get over all our divisions and reach that kind of unity that is essential, a fluid kind of unity that's essential to peace. So we made that jump in 2011. In 2011, I can remember we ran 1 program and we could only convince 11 kids to participate. Last year, we worked with about 3,000 people, and we're planning to have 6 programs this summer with about 150 people participating, and we had to turn away maybe 2 or 3 people for every slot.
Oh, what a shame. What a shame.
It is a shame. It is a shame. But one of the things, and I certainly wish we could accommodate everyone, but we know the bigger you get, the more demand there is, right? Which is, leads me to, 2 other pieces of this, which is, we do this in partnership with others. We do this in partnership with American, Israeli, and Palestinian organizations. And, the way we do this is we want them to grow, not just up alongside us, but go beyond us, right? And that they're developing the capacities to do this with and alongside us, but also with each other, right?
Exactly. Yes.
We have no delusions of grandeur. We can't fix this conflict, but what we certainly can is contribute leadership, understanding, prayer, and experience towards its solution. And that we're proud of, and we know that works. So that's how we operate. That's how we operate.
That's so great. Do you know how many people have participated over the years? Many
Yes.
thousands?
Yeah, so I believe we are around 14,000 people have been involved in one or another of our program. And I want to be clear, we do lots with adults that doesn't get as much attention as the young people, right? You know, you watch that video you showed and you fall in love with it, but you know, we do a lot of work with adults as well.
Yeah, we're going to get to those too. That's for sure. And a lot of what you do is, you know, train teachers as well to teach the young, and it just has such a unfolding, kind of like a beautiful garden effect of peacemakers. I just love it.
We try to design it all to be a sphere so that every program leads to supporting other programs that we run. So everything's interconnected. So if you do well in one area, it's going to have impact in another. And that's that unfolding that you talk about.
So I suspect part of the reason that you have to turn away people is funding. But I'm wondering, how do you get funded, and how would people donate if they would want to?
Sure. So we welcome all donations. We're a registered 501c3 organization. You can donate very easily by going to our website, which is JerusalemPeacebuilders.org. And there is a giving page there. You can you can do PayPal, you can give by credit card. It gives you the address if you like to send a check. So our funding primarily comes, when I mean primarily, I mean sort of 98% comes from motivated individuals like yourself, Penny, and I'm sure like your audience for these great podcasts. And so from individuals, small organizations, and small foundations. And they provide us with the vast bulk of our budget every year. We've got a very lean budget. We're able to do that because we're all practitioners. That's kind of a technical term. That means we all teach and we all do some admin and just about everything else in between. We don't have any infrastructure. We don't own any buildings. We don't have office rents. It all goes to support program, which is why we're able to do a lot with a little. And yes, donations allow us to do more. And
wonderful.
That's how we get that done. That's how we get that done.
I always like to talk a little personally, if you don't mind, because as you know, it's not like I'm some big organization or this, you know, I had a corporate background and all that, but since I had my kid, I was a stay-at-home mom when all this happened to me, and do all this, you know, from home. And I want people to know you can be a common person and do whatever it is your talents afford you to do. And so I'm curious, where were you born and raised?
Sure. So I was born in New York City and New York Hospital. I am a real New Yorker. I'm one of, I don't want to say the few because there's a number of us out there, but you know, that it doesn't get any more New York than New York Hospital. And
you don't have much accent.
I don't, because when I was in about first grade, my parents moved out to Kansas City, Missouri. And we lived on a big cattle farm. And then at the right moment, I went back east to go to school and met my wife at Yale College, as well as my good friends, our good friends, Stuart and Angie Kensinger, who joined us in the founding of Jerusalem Peacebuilders. and worked in New York for a while, and then headed off to the Middle East, where I got some of those degrees that you were kind enough to mention. But that's also where I really fell in love with Jerusalem, got seduced by Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And
there's such a feeling when you go there. It's just such so deep historically and ethnically, and it is a whole world there.
Oh, it is. And you know, it was really on one of the visits. I used to live in Egypt for a time, and it was on one of the visits up there. I met my father in Jerusalem. Well, actually, he came to Cairo, and we went up to Jerusalem together. He'd never been to the Middle East ever, and so it was his first time. And we were in Jerusalem. We were in the Church of the Resurrection, Church of the Holy Sepulchre. That's very special for Christians, where we remember Jesus's death and resurrection. And
it's a beautiful, beautiful building.
It's beautiful. It's old. It's got all kinds of complicated usage and histories, which can be off-putting, but we were in there and we just had one of those moments that we all know, no matter what our background is, where everything seems so clear. And that clarity spoke to me and said, this is going to be the focus of your life.
Wow. What's your ethnic background?
So my ethnic background is like many people's, a little of this and a little of that. So my mom's family are Greeks and Syrians, okay, Greek Orthodox. And my dad's family are English and German. So we got a little bit of everybody in us. And I hope that makes me a little more empathetic, right? I hope that makes me feel more empathetic.
And today, where do you live and how often do you go to the Middle East?
So I live in Brattleboro, Vermont, the Green Mountain State, and have done that since about 2013. And until COVID, I went over to Jerusalem probably 4 times a year. I spent about a third or a quarter of the year there. And but since COVID, I haven't been. I'm looking forward to going over in the middle of well, a little more towards the end of April. It'll be my first time back in over 2 years. I'm completely overexcited. Can barely sit for this podcast. And I'll be there for 2 weeks. I can't wait to get back there.
And do you have kids, and did they attend your camps?
Oh yeah. So Dorothy and I are blessed with 3 beautiful daughters. They're all young adults now, and all 3 of them have participated in the programs. All 3 of them have been to Jerusalem. I think all 3 of them have also been to Jordan and some other places in the Eastern Mediterranean. And they're all in as well. One of my daughters will be working at one of the summer camps in Houston this summer.
Great. And how old is she now?
She is 20 years of age.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So did you grow up with an interest in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict at all, or?
None at all.
Just
None at all.
This all happened later?
Well, I'll tell you, there was a little inkling. So I can remember this was not something that was part of our household or anything like that. And but I do remember as a boy, would have been an 8-year-old boy, 9-year-old boy, sitting on our kitchen counter when we lived on the farm in Kansas City, north of Kansas City, out in the countryside. watching clips of Walter Cronkite, CBS News, of
Yeah.
October 73 Arab-Israeli war.
Oy.
I can remember sitting on that counter. I could take you to the very spot. And I remember looking at those clips and thinking, there's something really wrong here. And as a little kid, I was like, and I want to help fix it.
Yeah.
And that got lost. That got lost for basically 20 years. And then that came back up.
You had to learn some skills.
Had to learn some skills, had to get a few gray hairs, get a little gray beard going, you know. That's right.
So in a segment of your programs, you have a series of summer camps, and it's based on a system of summer camps. And can you explain about how you built that? And afterwards, we'll get into more details and see some pictures. But
sure, love to. And you know, I think this goes to your point that anybody, you don't have to be a specialist to make a difference. So, you know, in my case, I was and am a specialist in the Middle East. But, you know, I didn't know anything about, I knew a lot of people in the Middle East, knew a lot about them. I didn't know anything about camp. And I didn't even go to summer camp as a kid.
Yeah.
And I grew up on a farm. You don't go to camp if you live on a farm. Camp farm is camp, right?
Yeah.
So what we did is we started with the leadership program, so for older teens. And then we quickly realized that, you know, that's not enough. That's like going to your senior year in high school and saying that's enough. Well, it's not. So then we went backwards and we started a program for sophomore-aged teenagers. And then, you know, then you start filling the gaps again and again and again. And the next thing we knew, we had a 4-year program. And that was really the genius of one of my colleagues. His name is Jack Karn. He runs our programs down in Houston, Texas for us, which is really where our American hub is. And it's a 4-year sequential program. And those 4-year programs, so after your freshman, sophomore, junior, senior year, and that camp program really parallels and brings out the best of our in-school programming. By in-school, I mean that in different parts of the United States and in schools in the Holy Lands, we run classes in schools. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And, from those classes, sometimes a school has us come and do a day. Sometimes a school has us come do, you know, an hour and a half for 12 weeks, right? I mean, they're all different sort of shapes and sizes, but out of those programs come the young people who join the 4-year summer program. And we're blessed with a very high rate of retention. So we are over 90% of young people who start with us finish.
Wow, that sounds just huge.
It is huge. You know, some of those numbers were disrupted by COVID.
Oh, sure, everything
But
was.
going into COVID and what we're seeing in our admissions this year for this summer, it's around 90%. And what we did is we've actually decided to double up one of our programs because we just said, you know what, why don't we just admit this whole other set of first timers because it's time to grow. It's time to grow. It's time to give them a chance.
I don't suppose I could talk you into thinking I'm 14. It sounds like such a fun experience, and a learning experience.
Well, that's it. And I think that's the genius of new kind of the new educational approach, experiential learning. which is you're learning rather than being taught, and you play to learn.
Yeah.
And this is one of the keys of helping young people get over all these, you might say, collective narratives that want to divide them from each other.
Yeah.
You can connect and, you might say, and play in the sort of biggest sense of that word. And
Right.
then suddenly, once they in play, you develop trust. And once we have trust, we get to friendship, and then we can start talking about that.
Yeah. I'd like to get into first the one of, well, your actual starting point with the 14.
Voyager, that's right. That's down in Houston, Texas at Camp Allen.
Yeah, if you could talk about some of these pictures. I know that, you know, you've talked a little bit about what are the opportunities here?
Sure. So Camp Allen, which is a camp of the Episcopal Diocese of Texas, a beautiful facility in terms of sort of church camps. It's probably the premier church camp in the United States. So bringing the young people here, a key part of peace building for young people or adults, but we're talking about young people, is getting them out of their home context so that they can grow. They're not being confined. They're not kept in a pigeonhole, right? So they come here, and for many of them, they've never been to any environment like this in their whole life. And so it's co-ed, it's interfaith, it's co-ed, you know, there's boys' dorms and girls' dorms and all that kind of thing. It's all, you know, kosher food. It's all, you know, supervised and comfortable so that they can enjoy the difference of living together, right? Christians, Muslims, Jews living together in a dorm. Probably never done that before. Been in a big outdoorsy kind of place like this. Probably haven't done it before. And then you can see the fun things they're doing. If you look at the photo to the lower right, where someone has a red handkerchief on there, they're doing trust building exercises. Okay? You know, they're getting over their fears in horseback riding. Most of them have never even touched a horse before. And very few of them have ever canoed before. You can see the effect of that. There's some joy going on. Then out on the lake there. So play being a key part of this. This is Voyager. This is level 1. This is after your freshman year in high school.
Now you actually have Jewish Israelis and Palestinians and American kids here together, right?
That's all who's mixed into that center photo there. And you can't tell them apart, can you?
Of course not.
You can't tell them apart. And in fact, the photo of the 3 young women, that's a Christian, a Muslim, and a Jew from the Holy Lands right there, looking like sisters of Abraham, exactly who they are. So this is Voyager. Penny, this is the introduction. This is the let's get to know ourselves and each other.
Right. And you're also teaching things like group dialogue and identity training. And
that identity training is really happens a lot in the Voyager. It runs through all of them, but identity training, knowing who you are, you know, who your neighbor is, who you are together. That's really the primary focus of Voyager, and all these activities you see here can both make that happen and reinforce it, propel it along, fuel it.
You've got Israelis and Palestinians, most probably for the first time, you know, in Israel, they live right next to each other, but there's not a social interaction. Now, all of a sudden, they're there, they're together, and each has all of these perceptions of the other.
Yep.
How do you deal with that? And what is, I'm interested what it's like in the beginning and what it's like at the end of camp. And camp lasts, what, 10 days or 2 weeks? Or
somewhere between 10 days and 2 weeks. That Voyager is more 10 days because they're young kids. They're 14-year-olds.
Right. And away for the first time. And,
and that's as hard on mom and dad as it is. So
yeah, I want to get to the parents too. Who are these parents who send Israeli and Palestinian kids to a camp to be together? But anyway,
well, I'll tell you who they are in brief. They're very courageous parents who have the same dream as you and I do. Right? A dream akin to ours, which is a dream of peace, a dream of unity, a dream of a future better than the present. So
in the beginning, okay, they're getting off the buses.
In the beginning, you know, we've done some work with them, right, before they arrive.
Oh, okay. So
remember, we've been in the schools. We've been in the schools.
Right.
Brought them together a few times before they even get to camp. All right. Don't underestimate the awkwardness of a 14-year-old boy. All right. So in the beginning, you know,
or the relief of the parents, I guess, when I think of a teenager sending them away for a while.
Absolutely.
Teenagers are really rough.
and so, you know, they're definitely atomized and divided when they arrive. They all come with their own prejudices and stereotypes and hurts and dreams.
Right.
I don't want to, you know, down because that's why they're there.
Right.
They believe enough in a better future of peace, and I'm going to call it fraternity, you know, unity, than the current situation, and it takes time because, of course, they're all steeped on, you know, stories and experience and a whole social system that teaches them to turn their backs to each other. Right?
Yeah. Do the Palestinians have to keep it a secret because of the whole normalization move?
We're careful with that. Absolutely. And that comes and goes. And some years we don't have pictures of anybody's faces.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I run into that a lot with the peacemakers.
Yep. Absolutely. And, you know, we're just sensitive, and we even some part of the forms are, you know, is it okay to take a picture of, you know, of your child? And some parents say yes, and some people say no, and, you know, you respect that. You work with it, right? You got to meet people where they are. So all that playing that you saw and more makes them go from slowly turn from back to back to face.
Yeah.
Okay. And one of the things that happens with face to face is not only do you see the other, but you recognize yourself.
Yeah, of course. It's, you know, the way they're portrayed in each world, they're not necessarily portrayed as humans, you know, even in textbooks, from what I understand, when they analyze some of the Palestinian textbooks, that Jews are portrayed as dogs and animals. And so, to, you know, not necessarily these kids, but if the culture is such that you're really dealing with extreme culture on both sides because of all the killing on both sides. And It's,
right.
it seems like a steep hill, or, I mean, how do you get up that hill in 10 days?
Well, you don't get up that hill in 10 days. You
Yeah.
make a start on that hill. And
Yeah.
that's why we don't have a 1-year program,
Ah,
right? That's why we have a multi-year program. And
yeah.
that's one of the things that differentiates us from many of our very honorable and rightly esteemed sister organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Tend to focus on a one and done kind of intensive camp program.
Yeah.
They tend to focus on 16-year-olds, and you go for one summer, maybe two, and that's it. And again, think about high school. If you went to high school for 1 year, what would you learn? You would have forgotten everything you learned, a few months later, right? It takes reinforcement.
Well, plus you're concentrating on other things along the way too.
Well, that's right. It takes a while to begin to climb that hill. And, we always want to remember that, we're not going to take those kids up that hill. They're going to take themselves and each other up that hill.
Mm-hmm.
So hopefully when we're doing our work well, we are giving them the skills, the relationships, and the experience to continue that trajectory, throughout their life, whether they become diplomats or teachers or business women or whatever they decide to do, that they'll take your non-specialist approach into their life and change how they go about it.
Do they have a formalized program to keep in contact with one another, or is it just up to them, in friendships?
So we keep, during their 4 years with us and beyond, we've got, cohort contact groups and programming for them along the way. And then into their being alumni, and alumni sort of come and go, they'll be there initially for the first, let's say 2 or 3 years, and then they flake off for a while because they're in their 20s and they're doing other things. And then what we found is then they start coming back again. And of course, they need something very different.
Sure.
Than the 20-year-old. A 26-year-old is different than a 20-year-old. So
absolutely. So just to get a further here, Global Voices.
Yeah, so this is Global Voices, and this takes place in New Haven, Connecticut.
And the other is in Texas, correct?
Yep, the other is in Houston, Texas. The camp is just outside of Houston, Texas, and the program takes place in the camp and in downtown Houston. This is Global Voices. This takes place, they live in downtown New Haven, which is a vibrant but gritty urban environment. It's right next door to Yale University, and Yale University is very generous to us in the use of welcoming us to enjoy their facilities and some of their resources there. And this program builds on identity and really wants to focus on communication. How do you communicate who you are to the other, but to the world? And how do you communicate what you believe in and who you want to be? And we focus in this on service to others. So you see in the center there, the welcome refugees welcome button, and right below, the young people are helping, they're taking supplies to help a refugee family move into their home. And
wow.
Yes. And, we connect this all to spirituality and religious tradition and belief. So there in the lower left-hand corner, you've got 3 of our young people, or 4 of our young people attending synagogue. We're all there. All the rest of everybody's also in that photo. They're just not in this focus. And they'll attend a mosque service and a church service, all with the themes of connecting these great Abrahamic religions to serving others. You please God when you serve others. There's a blessing to the world when that takes place. And so how do we express ourselves? Not just with words. Yes, with words. Words are important, but by deeds, you know. In Christian scripture, there's a great passage that says, you know a tree by its fruit. You know a tree by its fruit. Not by what it says to you, but by its fruit, what it produces, what that life produces. And so that's what they focus on here. They also, you can see in the corner there, above the shot from the synagogue, there's one of our students teaching a young woman how to write English. So do a lot of work with refugees around language, moving into their home, mathematical skills, geography, and then those experiences that produce refugees, war, violence, racial hatred, violence against women, become the entryway where we get to do those harder dialogues about life in and between Israelis and Palestinians. So rather than saying, hey, I want to talk to you about this, they get to experience it during the day in a very visceral way. And then we're prepared to talk about not those Iraqi or Guatemalan refugees, but about the members of the group talking to each other. And you see how that shift right there.
Yeah.
You know, that's experiential learning at its peak, right there.
Unfortunately, with what's going on, obviously, today with Russia and Ukraine and all of the refugees, are you seeing any kind of influx or anything going on as far as in your existing relationships that will impact what you'll be doing with that segment of your program?
Absolutely. So that basically the televisation of the Russian-Ukrainian war, the Russo-Ukrainian war, is bringing it home to everybody.
Yes.
And sensitizing everybody.
Yes.
And when that sensitization, when we are in New Haven this summer, probably working primarily with Afghani refugees, will, I think, give a sense of both urgency and energy to those conversations this summer. It's going to be all very close to the surface. And that's where the trained facilitators who lead these dialogues is key, because you've got to go deep without igniting a storm. That's very delicate work.
Well, I noted even when I watch the news and I hear the sirens and I hear the bombs exploding, you know, I don't think I've got PTSD, but I think I've got a little bit, you know, when you experience that, you have a visceral reaction to it, that it's the television of what's going on. is horrid to watch, but good for teaching people, getting a flavor. It's not like, you know, like when we were in bomb shelters and you felt even the bombs, Iron Dome was exploding, the bombs, you know, way up in the sky, maybe miles away at times, but you feel the percussion against your skin, and you don't forget that. You don't forget that. And so I'm wondering about, as far as these students, particularly the Israelis and Palestinians who, you know, unfortunately now still are living that, and these other folks from Afghanistan, from what you're saying, it's a whole other level for them.
It is.
When you talk about these things. So I really could relate to what you're saying.
And it's very, the dialogue facilitators go through all kinds of specialized training to be able to lead this, because, you know, you have to practice the do no harm rule, right?
Yes.
You don't want to trigger someone so that, you know, that they, well, that they're hurt by bringing up the topic, by remembering.
Right, right.
This is about helping them release it.
Yes.
So they can better understand it, what it's done to them, so that others can understand how this has affected them, right? That's the other key part about dialogue. Dialogue is not a group negotiation. Dialogue is hearing from one another on a challenging, deep question, right? Dialogue questions are super hard to write because you don't want a yes, no answer. You know, you got to, you know, structure the question so people have to reveal about themselves. But
and it's very personal. You know, what happened to me is not what happened to you.
Well, but that's exactly the point, is that we're exchanging, and we understand each other, and it's a process of rehumanization, right? And once we're both humans, then we're connected.
But even people on the same side, people on the trip with me, nobody else was impacted like I was. You know, when we were on the trip and bombs were flying, they didn't understand, you know, once the bombing was over, they didn't understand why I didn't just move on, why I, you know, couldn't drop it, why I let it change my whole life.
Well, I'm glad you didn't.
You know? Yeah. Well, I don't believe I had a choice in that, not like I'm dragged, but that it's so real to me. It's so real and so important. It just, you know, as you and I have discussed, I just feel like this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And I let it direct me. I try not to let myself talk myself out of who am I to do XYZ? Who am I not to? You know, it's what I'm supposed to be doing. You know, it's just, right. It's just what I'm supposed to be doing. And it's really inexplicable because I don't understand it. I just know in my heart, in my soul, in my direction, it is what I'm supposed to be doing.
And I want to hasten to say you're reclaiming part of something that is integral to what is America. Because before the Second World War, really before the Cold War, everyday ordinary Americans in vast numbers were involved in what we might call foreign relations, making a difference in the greater world. Foreign policy is, of course, rightly the exclusive reserve of the government.
Yeah.
but foreign aid and relations, that's everybody's job. That's, if you're a human being, that's your job, part of your job.
Yeah. We've talked a lot about the various, you've got a 4-year program with the kids. As I see time going on, I want to skip over to the adult program. The Excel Institute, for instance. Can we talk about that? Because you're teaching teachers.
We are indeed, so our listeners know, we looked at the first 2 years of the youth. That goes on for after their junior year, and then their senior year, and the senior year is leadership, and it gets them really activated to be able to create change at home and in an effective and realistic way. So this is the Excel Teacher Training Institute. We're very proud of this. This came into being in 2019. And we do it in partnership with an organization called Rhetorica. And Dr. Ilyas Farah is the executive director of that. And Dr. Ilyas is in the photo where I am in the red shirt. He's on the other side of the gentleman with the peace picture. And Dr. Ilyas is a very unusual man with many, many skills and much history. But what he also does is he is on the faculty of the Oranim Teacher Training Program and School in Northern Israel. It's one of the schools, one of the few graduate programs where Israeli Arabs and Israeli Jews study together, right, to become teachers.
Wonderful.
And so we run this teacher training program. How does it work quickly? It works because teachers need continuing education credits to advance in their career, but also to get a pay raise. We have put together accredited curriculums in our teaching that are certified by the Israeli Ministry of Education, so that these teachers can participate in our programs and get the credits and get a pay raise.
Wonderful.
So what's the goal? The goal is twofold. Well, the goal is manyfold, but in the short term, they undergo a peace and reconciliation process themselves. They learn improved English language pedagogy skills. They are then empowered.
Excuse me, I had to look it up myself, but can you explain what pedagogy? I can't even say it.
Pedagogy.
Skills are.
So it's how to teach English. They learn skills about how better to teach English. There you go. Thank you for calling me out on that. So
speak English, would you?
Okay, I will. I'll do better next time. So they then begin to take those skills, both the experience they had of reconciliation and the English language teaching skills, and begin to create combined school programming. Because in Israel, we're talking about Israel proper, Arabic speaking students go to different schools than Hebrew speaking students. And so this is, they get out of their school and meet together to have the young people start learning together. Doesn't sound like a big deal to us. Huge deal in Israel. It's a huge deal.
Oh yeah. For sure.
And then what we've learned is the teachers that have done this, yes, they're doing that, which contributes to social healing in the country. Most of the teachers are women. These women get promotions because of what they've learned. So we're working on gender equality too. They start moving up the pay scale, and and a significant number of them with each cohort get state awards for teaching excellence, which we're really proud of. And,
Wonderful.
and then last year, just so that we can talk about some other things, I'm sure, is the program grew from a one-time program at Cambridge University, meaning you did it one season and you were done, to, a 3-level program, kind of like the kids. You do your first level in Jerusalem, and you do an intermediate level in Nazareth, and then only after you've completed those 2 can you advance to the 3rd level at Cambridge University. Very prestigious, intensive, great adventure. And the plan for all this, Penny, is that these teachers will begin teaching the JPB curriculum, the stuff that normally we teach. They'll start teaching it themselves in their schools.
Wonderful.
And that will allow us to scale it up and also to have greater impact.
Fabulous. Now, you have so many incredible programs, and I wanted to concentrate on, a little bit deeper on some of the teens programs, because that's where it all begins and builds. And you have many, many programs that we haven't even talked about, but you also have adult programs, and we've begun to touch on those. You have an educational travel and pilgrimages segment as well. What is that about?
So that is once or twice a year, Jerusalem Peacebuilders leads or is contracted to lead a group of adults to different parts of the Middle East. These days, that's gotten a little harder, right?
Yes.
But
for many reasons, unfortunately.
And we've taken people all over the Middle East. These days, we focus primarily on the Holy Lands, Israel, Jerusalem, Palestine, and Jordan.
Petra, right?
And Petra. So we're so in a few weeks, I'll be taking a group of women and men around Jerusalem, parts of Israel, and these hospitals in the West Bank. And in October, we'll be taking a group of pilgrims, primarily Christian pilgrims, on both a spiritual experience, but also an adventure through Jordan, Petra, Jerash, desert castles, all these wonderful places, Kerak, giant Crusader castle, but then also into Jerusalem as well at the end. So what we love about this is, and it's just what happened to you, is when you go to that part of the world, it changes you.
Yeah.
And so many of these women and men become volunteers and educators and supporters of JPB, and their lives are transformed for the better. So we're all in. We're all in on that.
Yeah, I did want to mention your latest program that hasn't started yet, that you're opening for women with Arij. Can you talk about your new program? I believe it's open in November.
So the My Choice Women's Empowerment Program primarily, well, exclusively focuses on Christian and Muslim women in the West Bank. That's because of, with so many difficulties of border crossings and all permits and all of that, for lots of reasons that we both understand and don't understand. We've decided to start a program in the West Bank. So it's for women. Which women? Women in their basically 20 somethings that we have learned through research are the most underserved community in the West Bank. So here are women in the prime of their lives. They're university educated. And they're being excluded from and sort of under invested in by the rest of society. We're seeking to start a leadership program. We're not just seeking, we're doing it as we speak. For women, really 20 women at a time, to give them both leadership skills and a little bit of business administration education. You can relate to that. So that they can begin to improve their lives, the lives of their family, lives of their neighborhood. It's that experiential learning model of learning, dialogue, but then that application piece, they're all going to get onto, for their neighborhood or their town or village, a community-based project. We're going to get them paid internships so they can get work experience and to work on that project, with the idea that over time, it's a 3-year program, they will reach a certain level of success with that project, which will give them the work experience they need, give them income, they'll get a network, a human network going there. But also, if you're able to bring a paved road to your neighborhood, or perhaps running water, or electricity, or a bus stop, it's far more likely you will also be elected to your town council. And we know in the West Bank, in Palestine, women are vastly underrepresented in governance and the formal economy.
Oh, this
want to contribute to change there. We want to contribute to change.
This is different yet the same when you say I could relate to it, because I grew up in corporate America during the 70s, 80s, 90s, being one of the first female managers, et cetera, consultants, et cetera, through the years. So that process, oh, what is that? That's a woman in that position, et cetera, and unfortunately today, even in the US, it's still so far behind. Was during the Grammys, I'm still laughing with the 3 comedians who are women who began, who were the host of the show, and the beginning joke was, the reason that they were 3 women doing the host of the show is because they could get all 3 for the price of 1 male. And it's not good, but it really was funny. It's sad but funny at the same time.
Absolutely. And that's why it's a lot of the same dynamics for these women, and they're going to need each other. They're going to be swimming upstream. They're going to face a lot of resistance, a lot of prejudice, a lot of exclusion.
They have a real strong cultural issue going on there.
They do, and we want to empower them to be able to make those changes on the edges, what I'm going to call positive change on the edge. And, that's why we're focusing on, sort of the business training, right? Their jobs in the West, there's a very high rate of unemployment in the West Bank, close to 30%. But there are jobs there, but all the jobs, it's one of these catch-22 things. You have to have 3 years work experience, but no one will give you any work experience.
Yeah.
So that's why we want to get them those paid internships to help make that change. And, I want to switch out of this to just a story that I think.
Make it quick though, because we're running over time.
Yep. Well, you're going to edit me out. But
Okay.
what I want to share is a story that's about the women.
Mhm.
It's about a young man, but it's what we seek for the women and all our young people. We have a young man. He's an alumni now, alumnus, excuse me, and he went to he got into the Hebrew University law faculty, one of the, if not the most difficult faculty to gain admission to. He went on to do very well. He represented the state of Israel in the World Moot Court Championships that take place in Washington, D.C. every year. He was asked to carry the Israeli flag. Doing that, he also went on to win the law prize for the state of Israel.
Wow.
He's not Jewish. He's actually a Palestinian Christian.
I thought you'd probably get to that.
Right?
Yeah.
So what happened there? We invested in someone's leadership, and that allowed them to achieve. And as he achieved, he empowered other change around him to the point that he was able to break through a glass ceiling. Not even 10 years ago would a non-Jewish person be awarded those honors, right? And here he is, through his, incredible humanity. He empowered others to claim their own and to say, you know what, this is the best qualified person, right? Male, female, Arab, Jew, we give the prize to the most qualified person. And that's really what we're seeking to do through everything that we're trying to do.
Well, that success story sounds like a great way to end this. Thanks so much, Father Nicholas, for sharing with us all the wonderful projects that Jerusalem Peacebuilders works on, moving toward more peace-filled relationships and a better future. Next week, we'll return with Netta Lovi of Itach Maki Women Lawyers for Social Justice to learn about the terrific work they're doing. Itach Maki Women Lawyers for Social Justice was established in 2001 to give voice to women subject to social, geographic, national, ethnic, and economic discrimination in Israeli society. The association's vision is that Israeli law will reflect the unique perspectives of women from all social groups and ensure that they are able to fully exercise their rights. In order to achieve its goal, the association provides free legal aid and representation for women in various areas of the law. For now, we'll leave you as we pray that the violence in the Middle East and in Ukraine will soon stop, and that everyone will someday live in peace, shalom, and salam.